Hey everyone, so I've decided to try to get one more story out this weekend. This is another wild one, but I have to admit, the way it's being couched or painted in the media has made it sound a bit more sensational than it actually is. The headlines have been along the lines of entire Buddhist monastery tests positive for methamphetamine, or even the Vice article I'm going to be reading from. It's entitled Buddhist temple left without monks after they all test positive for meth. Now, this is technically true, but the story kind of loses its punch once you find out there were only 4 or 5 monks in the monastery to begin with. Among them was the temple's abbot. So I'm not sure if it was 4 monks and an abbot, or if the abbot is counted among the four, but either way, they were all defrocked and sent to a clinic to undergo drug rehab. So I'll read a bit from this article. It's dated November 29th and it's by someone named Gavin Butler. And as I already mentioned, it's entitled Buddhist Temple Left Without Monks After They All Test Positive for Meth. It follows a string of criminal scandals involving monks in Thailand, where authorities are reporting record-breaking quantities of synthetic drugs. A small Buddhist temple's entire abbey of monks was defrocked, dismissed, and sent to rehab this week after every one of them tested positive for methamphetamine. All four, yeah, see, all four. It says an entire abbey of monks, but yeah, four of them. It's still true, but all 4 monks at a temple in Phetchabun, is that it? Phetchabun province's Bung Samphan district. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the good people of Thailand. Make a drinking game out of it. Every time I absolutely butcher a South Asian name, place, or name, have a drink. Province's Bung Samphan district in central Thailand were forced by police to take urine tests on Monday. All four of them, including the abbot, failed. For some reason, urine tests made me chuckle. I was thinking of it like it was some kind of exam. Anyway, the monks were subsequently sent to a health clinic to undergo drug rehabilitation. Local official, and there's no way I'm pronouncing this right, a Boonlert Thin or Tin Tap Tai told AFP, leaving the temple without holy men and raising concerns among local worshippers that they wouldn't be able to conduct quote-unquote merit making, that is, donating food to monks as a good deed. And so many of you regular listeners probably already know my story. I was raised Catholic, had a lot of doubts from an early age. By the time I was in my, teens, I was already kind of closing the door on the idea of literal belief in a personal creator God. And probably by my late teens, early 20s, I just could no longer believe in the supernatural faith claims of Christianity. And when I kind of closed the door on that, I began I was kind of a seeker in a way, I guess I still am, but I began exploring other belief systems. And for a while, I got really into Eastern religion and spirituality, especially Tibetan Buddhism, Zen Buddhism. And there's still a lot I learned from Eastern spirituality that I kind of consider, very important, and that I've kind of incorporated into my being, like compassion for all life and a kind of healthy detachment or equanimity, that kind of thing. And I used to consider Buddhism I used to half jokingly say, for me at least, it was kind of like training wheels for atheism, because it showed me that you could have a spiritual worldview that didn't necessarily embrace or require belief in a personal creator God. But yeah, I can remember, from studying Buddhism that almsgiving was a big part of it, that the laity could kind of accumulate good karma or spiritual merit by giving alms to Buddhist monks. So that's probably what they're talking about here. And just to quickly correct myself, I don't know if I'd say almsgiving was a big part of it, but a part of it, especially for the laity. But I'll continue. Boonlert said more monks would be sent to the temple to allow people to carry out their religious obligations. And there's only about 6 relatively short paragraphs left, so maybe I'll just go through them. Let's see. It's not clear why police targeted this particular temple, nor these particular monks, to test for drug use, but the action comes amid a broader national campaign to tackle the trafficking of illicit substances. Thailand, like many other nations across Southeast Asia, has in the past 2 years seen a major uptick in the volume of meth passing through the country. Much of that can be traced back to the Golden Triangle, ooh, sounds ominous, a notorious fountainhead for the synthetic drug trade, where the borders of Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar meet, and more specifically the conflict-riven should be conflict-ridden? I don't know. The conflict-riven hills of Myanmar's Shan State, or Shan State? That's gotta be a typo. They must mean conflict-ridden, unless there's some kind of Mandela effect thing going on here. Just kidding, don't believe in that stuff. Anyway, it continues. In the wake of the Myanmar coup, which in February 2021 saw the Burmese military overthrow the government and plunge the nation into chaos, record-breaking quantities of both crystal methamphetamine and meth pills, otherwise known as yaba, have continued to pour out of the triangle and flood the region. Production and trafficking of illegal synthetic substances hit record levels in 2021, with authorities collectively seizing nearly 172 tons of methamphetamine and more than 1 billion yaba or yaba tablets. This is not an isolated case of Thai monks behaving badly either. In recent years, the sacred institution of Thai Buddhism has been tarnished by a series of high-profile arrests and scandals relating to corruption, murder, and drug trafficking among its clergy. In March, Luang Pu Tuan Chai, I should stop even trying, a monk who rose to fame in 2020 after claiming to have omniscient powers, was charged with drunk driving and drug possession, and subsequently disrobed, after police found him carrying dozens of methamphetamine pills. Earlier in January, another monk was similarly disrobed after being caught consuming methamphetamine pills and selling them to local youths. Remember, was it My Cousin Vinny? Such controversies have eroded public faith in Thailand's Buddhist monks, with experts telling Vice World News in March that the nation's Buddhist monastic order was in need of reform to weed out bad actors and restore the religion's image of purity and righteousness. And here's a quote: "The ultimate goal of Buddhism is for the people to get enlightened," said Sambun Chung Pram Pri. Sorry, whoever you are, I did not mean to butcher your name. A social activist and executive secretary of the International Network of Engaged Buddhists. And the quote continues, "But most of the society is learning that not all those who are wearing saffron can be a holy or respectable person." And that's the end of the quote, and then there's only 2 sentences left to the article. Buddhism is the official religion of Thailand and followed by about 93% of the population. The country is home to more than 300,000 monks. It's funny, and I have to admit I used to be guilty of this too. I think there's a tendency in the West to kind of romanticize Eastern religion, Buddhism, etc. I think Eastern religion holds a kind of exotic appeal for us. We think of the smiling Buddha statues, the wise monks, the colorful mandalas, the air of serenity and tranquility, and yet we fail to imagine that below the surface there could be corruption and scandal, just like here in the West with Christianity. Although in fairness, I don't know if the scope of the corruption necessarily goes as far as, say, to the extent of the Catholic Church sex abuse scandals. But I do remember several years ago being disheartened and shocked to learn that supposedly Buddhist monasteries, I think in both Thailand and Tibet, were plagued with their own sex abuse scandals. Supposedly there were older monks who were abusing children, child monks, both physically and sexually. I know it's jarring to hear and it doesn't fit with our image of Buddhism with its focus on wisdom and compassion. But I just did a quick Google search. I'm looking at some of the headlines. Bangkok Post, this was back in 2019. Temples no longer safe for children. Another one, Dalai Lama decries Buddhist teachers' sex abuse. What lies beneath the robes? Adult monks abusing children. Even Tricycle, which is this long-standing Buddhist publication. What went wrong? And it goes into student-teacher relationships and sexual abuse in Tibetan Buddhism. But I guess wherever you have humans congregating, especially tucked away from society, some given power or authority over others, there's always going to be the potential for corruption or abuse. Sadly. Kind of a dark note to end on, I know. At least the four guys on meth weren't touching anyone that we know of. That's a silver lining. All right, as always, thanks for listening.